Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Wendy Weekly. This week, I am absolutely delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing two people at once, not just one. And with me on the call, I have Giovanni Patania and Ryan Windsor from Windsor Patania Architects. And it's really great to have people on the call, people who I can interview who've got these specialisms, because I often talk to my clients, my mentees, the wider world about developing a power team or a dream team to help you if you're looking to get involved in HMOs. But a lot of people kind of think, well, who do I really need? Can I boil it down to just 2 or 3 key people? My mortgage broker is one, and the rest of it I can do myself. And I think as entrepreneurs, we tend to maybe sometimes have that mindset that we can do everything ourselves, but we can't. So, hi, Giovanni. Hello, Ryan. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
So you guys form Windsor Patania, and you've got a growing reputation in the HMO world, the HMO industry, for design and turnout of amazing HMOs. So thank you very much for being here today. Really appreciate your presence here. So I wanted to really start by asking you about your backgrounds. Why did you end up forming a partnership, and kind of what led you to this place? So Ryan, let me start with you.
How far do you want me to go back?
Well, it's good to have a bit of context, because you're not only an architect, but you're an investor, aren't you, with a bit of a unique story.
Yeah, that's true. I've always been quite entrepreneurial. I've always had little sideline businesses as a kid growing up. And I think this was due to the fact that I don't come from a very affluent family. So, money was always on my mind, how to save it, how to make it, and what the future was looking like. When I was a little bit older, 17, I spotted an opportunity with my next door neighbours to actually help them sell their property. And I actually brokered the deal between them and my sister. And I said to them, if I can help you sell the property, within a month, because they were going through a divorce, what's the best price you can do? And they said, well, we just want to get out of the deal and move on with our lives. So, what's left of the mortgage, which was, around about 80,000. And the property was valued at about 110. So I said to my sister, this is a really good deal. She's a bit older than me. So I think you should do it, and you should rent it out. This would be a good pension pot for you. And she said she didn't have the savings, but I did from all my childhood ventures. So I gave her all of my money. I was an angel investor before I even knew what an angel investor was. And it was my first and last sourced deal as well. I've never really sourced a deal since. And I saw that she was doing very well with it, and she was making some good money from the rent. And I thought, well, actually, this is something that I should do. So then I started with the next deal, which was actually a JV between me and my sister. So keeping it quite close. Property next door to my mum, that was my sister's now, renting out. And then the next property was in the street across the road.
Amazing. So you did it in quite a small location then?
Very small. There was a Telegraph article actually that featured a story of my investment portfolio, and it was titled, "You Own Most of Your Street." Which, so I mean, there was a big debate about how far to go for, rental properties. I built my portfolio up within, a 5-minute walking distance from my house.
Wow, that's a great goldmine area.
Yeah.
Love it. Excellent. So let's fast forward then to, a bit more recently. So you've got some experience in property and so on. So then what led to this this opening of architecture and design?
Gio, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, so we started our company in 2017, but me and Ryan met probably around 2015, 2016. Yeah, so at the time I was running a networking event in London, which was dedicated to developers. Yeah.
So Giovanni, what's your background then?
My background is in architecture. So I'm an architect. I'm from Italy, as you can judge from my name and my accent. And from Tuscany, more precisely. I moved to London in 2013. I've been working in a really big company for 4 years, Foster & Partners. They are the biggest architectural company in UK. They did really big things like, the Millennium Bridge, London City Hall, the Gherkin. So a lot of really important projects. And I had the opportunity to work alongside Lord Norman Foster, which is one of the most prestigious architects in the world. And during the experience, I was operating as a lead architect for Apple. So my role was to help designing Apple stores, and more precisely, I've been working on the Champs-Élysées Apple store for a couple of years, literally from start to finish, just before construction. That was the end of my duty. The store is now open in 2018. It's a really beautiful store in Paris on the Champs-Élysées. So if you have the occasion to go there and visit it, highly recommend it as an architectural experience.
Great. So we can go in and say, we know the person who designed this. How's
who
that?
helped design it. Yeah. So that was a really cool experience for 4 years. And working for Apple was also quite a challenge, as you can imagine. So with this in mind, and all this knowledge that I acquired, when I met Ryan on my networking, we actually met on his award ceremony. He was getting an award for outstanding performances in property investing. So we met, and I shared my background, what I do, and he told me he's an investor, and a good one, not just an investor, a really good one. I wanted to get into investment as well, and so we started getting to know each other's. Then from there we became friends. He came over to my networking event to speak a couple of times. He asked me to do a survey of one of his properties, and then doing one of these surveys, I actually fell through the roof. There was a loft conversion going on, and that the floor wasn't in good shape, and unfortunately, despite the estate agent told me that everything was fine, I basically, did a hole on the loft floor.
Dear!
And that was quite a funny. I didn't hurt myself, luckily, but it was quite a fun experience that also helped us bonding, creating a friendship even more. So he came over, then I advised him.
It could have gone one of either ways, couldn't it? You'd either get, closer from that, or you'd stay apart.
Yeah, definitely. And then, one day, out of the blue, completely randomly, I didn't expect that. I didn't imagine that. But Ryan, so as he often does, he sees opportunities. He just, he looks at people, and he thinks about how to leverage their knowledge, their talents, and he sent me a message on WhatsApp, just out of the blue. Shall we start architectural practice? And I was like, okay, why not? Let's start. And
just like that.
Everything started from there. We got our first client in March 2017. And for months we didn't get any new client. There was just one client at a time probably in the first 3 months, and then we started step by step building up, the systems, building up our brand, our name, because we didn't have any website, we didn't have a name. So in September 2017, we opened up our limited company, and we started taking things really seriously. And in parallel, I was developing my property portfolio in Liverpool. So that's my investment area. I bought my property in 2017. The first one is a small Hmo. And then in 2018, I bought another one, 6-bedroom Hmo. So I had to go through all the pain, of having to do with builders, trying to make sure they don't do mistakes or they don't scam you. Because in Liverpool, as you can imagine, it's really easy to get scammed by builders. Even the good ones, they sometimes try to play a little bit sly. So I was going on site basically every week to make sure they were doing things properly. Yeah. And so I ended up, now I have an HMO portfolio. I went to professionals in Liverpool. Yeah.
That's great. So you've got some,
yeah.
You've got some experience that's kind of either side of the fence, as you might say. First of all, as an investor, a landlord, you understand the challenges with HMOs, the need to have them so that they're licensable, tick all the boxes kind of thing. And also you can see it from the point of view of the investor that, basically the investor wants to make money, but the HMO is a means to an end. Ideally, it's to create not only just passive or residual income, but also a pension and an asset that is going to perform for the rest of that asset's life and the rest of the asset owner's life as well, so they can go off and do something else, a bit more interesting. So you had got that experience, Giovanni, which is really good. And of course, Ryan, you've got experience as a property investor as well. That's sort of how you started. So when you then formed your company, your architectural company, how much did your experiences of being an investor influence what you were doing and how you were working with your clients?
Ryan, do you want to take this? Do you want to take this one here?
Yeah, I think a lot. So right from the beginning, we are looking at the development, the potential development from the eyes of a developer, investor, and the tenant, the end user. So we're looking at it all encompassing. What is the development? Is it feasible? Because that's great, obviously, but then also, is it viable? They have to be both. So we've developed a suite of products to obviously help our clients, sort through the good, the bad, and the ugly of the properties, and not purchase the property in the hope of planning and then find out it doesn't get planning. So we really want to advise our clients from the very early stages. And then understanding, the market demand. So there's an example where the client who bought a building without getting planning, wanted to turn it into something. He said it was going to be his cash cow of the north. He wanted a 30-room HMO, 30-bedroom HMO, former retail unit into a HMO. We did our research. He appointed us for market research, and it actually turned out to be non-viable. No one would want to rent the HMO. So we actually changed the scheme into flats, and that's what everyone wanted. And we really dived deep into the demographic of the area. So
that's a really interesting point, because I think that perhaps slightly less experienced architects or architects who themselves are not investors might take the client's view as being the right view. I think many architects I've spoken to, perhaps don't have your experience, might have said, well, all right, you want a 30-bed HMO, we'll deliver a 30-bed HMO. It's not up to us to make sure it's viable. It's not up to us to make sure that it's actually going to fulfill the ultimate aim that you want it to. Our job is just to take the building and turn it into the building you want it to be. And you could have done that. You could have taken that case, couldn't you? And you could have, had a beautiful HMO. It could have been converted wonderfully. The builders could have come in on time and budget. You would have got your pay. You could have waved goodbye. But then the investor is left going, I can't rent this HMO out because it's in the wrong area. It's the wrong demographic. I wish I'd known this before. So to a certain degree, you're getting involved, as you say, in the viability of the project in terms of its long-term goal, which is something a little bit different, isn't it?
I think so, definitely. I mean, architects, aren't necessarily having to have investment experience, and give that level of advice, but I think me and Giovanni really care about our clients. We have a really customer-centric approach. We always say in the team, it's a mantra that we're proactive and not reactive. And our clients are coming to us for very serious reasons. They want to change their life through property. They want to have an extra income. They want to hedge against inflation. They want to transform these horrible, disused buildings into new, wonderful spaces. Yeah, and they need them to perform, and if they don't perform, they don't have a business. And
actually, if they do perform, presumably there's much more likelihood, of course, they're going to come back to you next time, aren't they? Because they're going to go, hey, these guys helped me to convert this building into what it was intended to be. Yeah. So I'm going to use them again and again and again. So it's good. Yeah. It's good for both of you to have that kind of approach, I suppose.
Well, definitely that is one element of it. But also, I mean, we are very objective. If a building doesn't work, we will tell them. So we have a lot of discovery calls where we're talking to clients, and right straight off the bat, we can say, this isn't going to work. It's going to be too expensive to convert. It's not viable. It's feasible, but it's not viable. And we can, might have to do a bit more of a research with that. But, right from the beginning, if we can tell the client it's not going to work or it is going to work, we will.
A really typical type of conversation we have in our Zoom calls and discovery calls, and even doing the project review, because we are doing the development journey, we will do a lot of design reviews with the clients, and we have often a debate about room sizes, as you can imagine, because the client wants to push, let's say, to 6 bedrooms. I want 6 bedrooms, 100%, I know it's going to work. Okay, let's do 6 bed. And then 2 of those 6 bedrooms, they are going to be 6.5 square meters in terms of area. At that point, we usually say, okay, definitely you can do it. It's viable. I mean, you can do it if it's feasible. Definitely you can do the 6.5 square meters bedrooms. However, are you going to be able to, let them out? Do you think there's going to be demand for those bedrooms? For how long those bedrooms are going to be let for? How much void time you're going to have, the void period. So, and we often convince those clients that instead of doing 6 beds, it would be better and more, efficient to do 5 beds. Because maybe instead of having two bedrooms of 6.5 square meters each, they have 1 double bedroom. Which can be even rented out to a couple, with an ensuite. In that case, it's better, for the asset in general. So we have this type of conversations, and often the clients understand, especially those clients which don't really know the market. They don't know, how difficult sometimes it is to, convince a tenant to commit to a tenancy. And the outlook of the room is really important, and a lot of one of the main things that new starters are forgetting about is that storage space is really important for tenants. If you want to retain a tenant, you have to give them a good amount of storage space, and if you have a 6.5 square meters bedroom, you can't give them that feature.
That's great advice. I think that's very true, because in the time that I've been investing in HMO, certainly my portfolio has changed and developed from what I was doing 7 years ago. Now I'm doing things quite differently, actually still using some of those ideas. For example, I find built-in furniture incredibly useful. Although you're paying a little bit more to have it built in, often you can do floor to ceiling wardrobes, you can do cupboards at the top, you can do drawers at the bottom. And of course, the tenants can't move it around the room. And after 3 years, you find you've got a wonky wardrobe because it's been moved so much around the bedroom. So there are certain things that I've carried on doing, have sort of been our trademark in our developments, but other things I've definitely changed. And I think that's definitely one of them, is that I think the kind of whole sardine tin, let's squash as many people into this HMO as we legally can, that's no longer something that tenants want. And in a time of, a competitive industry where there's quite a lot of supply for many, many tenants, they've got a good choice. You've got to try and set your HMO above the rest. And of course, with COVID, we've seen a lot more people working from home. And if there's no room to put even a small desk and a room for a laptop and maybe a kettle, and yet another HMO 2 doors down is offering that, well, the tenants are going to choose the one 2 doors down. Actually, even if it means a little bit more rent, because what they're looking for is quality of life, not just what's the minimum rent that I can pay. So I think that's really, really sound advice. So in terms of your HMO work then, does that constitute a bulk of what you do, or do you do housing plans, schemes of work for other kinds of development as well?
Okay, so we do both, but we ended up specializing a part of our team into HMOs because they are our bread and butter. We know them really well. We invest in HMOs, and there is a market for HMO design. So we ended up creating even a website only for this specific service, which is called HMO Architects, which also has a really nice blog section with a lot of interesting articles about HMOs. But that is not our only venture, HMOs. That is a really niche service that we offer to HMO investors. Our main brand is obviously Windsor Patania, and with this specific service, we're aiming to do new build projects, conversions of historical buildings in block of flats. Yeah, we also have some commercial projects, and in general, we aim to those projects which have a slightly higher budget. Yeah, still towards investors and developers, but maybe with Windsor Patania, we're aiming for more experienced investors with which are committed to do larger developments.
Okay, so let's imagine I'm a fairly new HMO investor. Okay, I've made this decision. I want to move from single buy-to-lets to HMOs. I've already got some experience in property. Maybe I've used a draftsman before, or I've used a technical drawer to design floor plans. Or I might have even used one of the online services. And so far, I've never had any problems using those 3D apps that you can use online. Everything's cool. You know, why would I need an architect? What is it that you can do that I can't do?
Okay, Ryan, you want to take this one here?
I think we'll leave it to you, the architect. Yeah.
I want to leave it to me. Why would you go with the architect? Okay, so it is plenty of draftsmen out there. Yeah, maybe I would say if you're designing a 3-bed HMO and you want to place an ensuite in one of the double bedrooms, you might not need the architect at all. Yeah, I agree. If the HMO is a 3-bed HMO, maybe even a 4-bed HMO. Yeah, the architect might be an overkill if you're just trying to reposition a partition wall or add an ensuite. Yeah, but when we're talking about doing a dormer extension, a rear extension, a side extension, a property with 5-6 ensuites and another 5-6 kitchenettes and a really large 6-meter extension, all of that. Is not easy. Yeah, it's much more complicated than it seems. Yeah, because it's a lot of components that come together, and often with these HMOs, every centimeter counts. Yeah, so you have to design. And you have only one chance to design it right. Yeah, you don't have a second chance. You have one chance to design it right. So if you do the pre-construction phase in the wrong way, and you forget about the pipe work, you forget about the thickness of the walls, and they are not the right ones. Also, a margin of error of 10 to 20 centimeters can mean losing an ensuite or losing a double bedroom. So every centimeter counts. So in that circumstances, the only way to get an accurate design and a functional design on time, yeah, is to work with a professional, yeah, an architect, yeah, and doing a sketch plan on whichever software or app you can download and do it in 5 minutes is not going to give you the same level of accuracy of doing a full measure survey with a laser camera. Yeah, the same way as we do. Yeah, with using an architect, you get these supports all the way through, and most importantly, if you do a 5 to 6 bed HMO, for example, or even worse, a 7+ bed HMO, yeah, you need a number of consultants on board. You need a structural engineer, you need acoustic consultant, you need a party wall surveyor if you're doing a dormer extension, yeah, in a mid-terrace house or end-of-terrace house, and they need accurate drawings. They can't work on a sketch plan. Yeah, they need accurate drawings. They need to be coordinated, and the architect does also this. The architect acts as a lead consultant on behalf of the investor. Yeah, so the investor doesn't have to waste his time liaising with all these people, but he only has one professional to liaise with, the architect, which gives updates on what everyone is doing, how everyone is performing. Yeah, and things get even more complicated with a planning application if the investor needs a full planning application. Yeah, some HMOs are falling in an Article 4 area. Hence, if you're doing a 3 to 4 bed HMO, you do need full planning application anyway. And those planning applications are a long process. They can last from, if you're lucky, 2 months, the minimum, but they can also last 6 months really easily. Yeah. If the council is low and they need additional information. Yeah. So the architect is going to help you doing things right, especially in the pre-construction phase. Yeah. I would say in the construction phase, having the architect helping you with everything is a little bit of an optional. If you have a good base in the pre-construction, you can do things better in the construction phase. The architect is not 100% needed for an HMO project. Yeah, if the investor is feeling confident to manage, the snagging process and all the manage the builders. Yeah. But in the pre-construction, is it really important to do things the right way with building control, party wall, structural engineers, and all the consultants involved, so to reduce the issues on site.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So accuracy is obviously key, but also what you're talking about is coordination of all those different professionals that might be involved, particularly on slightly bigger projects, planning and the oversight of planning, and presumably also then if you are required to, for example, project manage, as you say, you're the lead contractor. But interestingly, of course, under CDM regulations, there are quite a number of legal obligations there as well, and compliance rules, which as an architect, presumably you also have to oversee, which I think, again, if you're new to HMOs and maybe you're thinking about doing a 6 or 7 or 8 bed HMO because you've got the finances, you've maybe got some experience, you've maybe got some experience of doing refurbs, it's kind of easy to think, oh, well, I can just kind of jump into it. But there are lots of loopholes, and I think unless you're educated, unless you know, for example, whether you or not you need acoustic insulation, will you need an acoustic test? In some local authorities, they require an acoustic test for 7 bed or more HMOs. In others, they don't. That's your job to go and find that out, isn't it? It's your job to go and explore that, to understand whether that is a requirement, and then to coordinate it and feed that back to the client so that they understand what is required and what the spec of the work is going to be in order to get it to pass muster, so it actually can be then a legally compliant HMO at the end of the construction phase. So I think that's really valuable to add that in. I think for a lot of people, they think that an architect is a designer, that you come along and you can look at a building in a 3D perspective and go, oh, I know, we can add a sort of glass dome to the top,
True,
wonderful sort of glass extension on the back, and you've got all these creative ideas. And certainly I think for a lot of people, that creativity is what maybe draws them to you in the first place. They've got a house, but they're just not sure how to create an HMO out of this property. And for some people, they've got that skill naturally. Certainly, I've always found I can walk into a property and go, oh, put that there, do this, do that, do the other. Right, you've got an HMO. But I would imagine that even though that's maybe something that for me is a fairly natural ability to do, if you came along to one of my projects, you would say, well, actually, Wendy, if you just move this a little bit over here, or you'd put the door here, or you'd change the window, you actually would have got a lot more floor space out of this room, or whatever it would be. And that's the benefit that you bring to working with your clients, is that you can bring not just the accuracy and the sort of technical side, but you also bring a design element in as well, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends also on our scope of work. Because some clients want to appoint us only for planning and building regulation. Just to get everything the correct prior to go on site. But other clients, they want us to to appoint us for more services, and especially furniture design, not furniture design, of supplying the right furniture to the property, doing some interior design. So we can also help with those things. Also, another thing we do really often is to liaise with a kitchen designer and kitchen manufacturing company. Because also the kitchen is a really delicate, part of an HMO. You can't design a kitchen which involves, too many people being there at the same time and to be congested too much. at that point wouldn't be functional. Yeah, so we have to design all the different elements at the right distance, with the right worktop space. The fridge freezer space needs to be allocated in the right location. So all these details here, we can help design.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So that's really good. So Ryan, I'd like to ask you, in terms of some of the projects you've done, some of the HMOs that you've done, what have you learned through working with investors? What advice might you give to an investor who's thinking about doing an HMO? What can they learn from your experience of overseeing many projects and of course having your own HMOs?
Location and understanding the demand and the tenant type is really, really important, because when you're designing a HMO, you have to take into consideration the tenant type. For instance, my Cambridge properties, most of them are PhDs and doctors. They want a different type of living to the ones that I started off with, which were more migrant workers working in factories. Yeah, both wanting quality, but different types of quality. I would also say preparation. The more you can prepare for the construction element, the more time and money you're going to save. So that's key. So the more you
that's a really interesting point, because again, we can get so excited, can't we? Oh, I'm buying my first property. I'm about to pick up the keys. The contracts have been signed, or I'm due to exchange on Friday, and I'm going to go into the estate agent, pick up the keys, and then that's it. Boom! Saturday morning, we're in. But that kind of, although it's great to have that energy and the momentum, what would you say to somebody who has that kind of approach? I'm sure you would advise them, be careful.
Well, fantastic energy, but obviously maybe let's do some due diligence beforehand, before you actually purchase. Make sure the property is going to be feasible and viable, and we can obviously help with that, because once you purchase the property, you're stuck with it. And there's a case study where one of our clients came to us with a property in Wrexham that they wanted to convert. Very feasible. The sourcing agent was chasing her to pay the £5,000 deposit. She appointed us for our Hmo design appraisal. It was feasible. It was a huge property. She could convert it. But we found that there was one element of the planning regulations that just would not allow it. The council 100% would not allow her to have a HMO. And it was the sandwiching effect. There was already one HMO next door, so no other HMO could be connected. She was obviously disappointed, but then she didn't buy the property, so she didn't get into more trouble. And I think sometimes being, very objective and very honest is the best policy. Just mentioning the estate agents, one of the things that's really stood me in good stead as an investor is, if you are committed to buying a property and the property is good, buy it. And don't let down the estate agents. I mean, obviously, everyone's financial situations are different and things can change, but don't, always don't pull out of a deal, if there's a deal that's £2,000 cheaper down the road, because the estate agents will know, they talk. And what I've done is I've pretty much bought every property at the price that I've agreed. I didn't renegotiate at the last moment to try and get £2,000 off. And then the estate agent started to call me up before they started to market the property. So I effectively went into their black book, and they would say, hey, I'm about to market this property. Do you want to come and have a chat? So I have a strong relationship with that.
Yes, I think that's absolutely key. I think once you have agreed on a price, unless something crops up in the survey, and sometimes that can be a reason for renegotiating price. Certainly I've had a couple of experiences where I've agreed a price and then the survey's come in and I thought, hang on a minute, there's too much work here, and the vendor may well or may, I don't know whether they have or haven't been aware of the work that's needed. But for example, in one property we found Japanese knotweed, and that hadn't been disclosed to us before the sale. It was only when we got the seller's pack through that it was ticked. So we then had to explore that, and we utilised that as a lever for reducing the price. Another time we had a property where the survey came back and said that the property is full of damp, you need to have a specialist damp and timber report. Well, of course that cost us money, and we hadn't even bought the property at this stage, so again we renegotiated the price. But I think otherwise you're right, there is a sense in which actually, if you are working with estate agents, building up your credibility and building up your commitment to follow through on that purchase is a very important part of that strategy.
I mean, it extends. I mean, most of the projects on the second half of my investing career have come from agents that have not listed the property, and I've gone and spoken to the vendor the day that they've met the vendor the first time, and we've pretty much agreed a price then and there. So I'm getting first refusal basically for access, and then even working with the councils, having really good properties that are in good condition that are all fully compliant. The council started to actually call me up when they were revoking licenses off of the rogue landlords, and saying we're going to revoke this guy's license. He's not going to be able to be a landlord anymore. Do you want to come and have a look at his property, because he's got tenants?
Yeah.
And obviously that is because when I do have an issue in one of my properties, like we all do, a boiler breaks down, my power team, my plumber will go around within a day, 2 days maybe, if it's a weekend, which is pretty quick, it's a reasonable amount of time, and try and solve the problem.
Correct. And it's creating that kind of professional attitude to running your business your portfolio as a business is critical, I think, to be able to create those relationships in the community, which are actually vital for your survival, as well as helping other people with great accommodation.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, we had a question in the Facebook group. So and I'm sorry, I can't see who it is. Using StreamYard, I'm not able to see who's posted the question. So I'm sorry I can't make it personal, but I'll read the question anyway. How best can you prepare if you can't get access to the property for builders to give you a quote until your completion? This is because in the current market, lead time of builders are quite crucial. So how best to prep builders in order to secure a place from your builders? So I think there's really two questions here. Number one, how do you get the quote up front for a builder before you've even completed on the property? And secondly, how to make sure that you are kind of able to confirm with the builder that you want to utilize them, so that they plan out their time in the diary to make space for your conversion.
Okay, so that's obviously a good question. So how do we do that? Yeah, so if you are about to buy a property and they haven't exchanged yet, yeah, how do you get a builder to commit even before you exchange? Yeah, so if you don't have a design, but you only have a plan from the estate agent, what I would suggest to do, is to prepare a separate document, to be submitted to the builder together with the plans, which contains a list of specifications, so your specifications as an HMO developer. So do you want the spotlights in the ceiling? Do you want to rewire the whole property? Do you want how many en-suites do you want? And do you want wet rooms or en-suites? So you have to basically build yourself a list of specifications to give them an idea of what you're planning to do. Otherwise, they will not be able to give you any price. They can't commit to something.
Yes. Turn this house into a 6-bed HMO. Go on, now give me a price for it. I hear that all the time, and people haven't done a detailed specification, and of course the builder then doesn't know what to go on. What are they quoting for? And you can't get an equivalent quote from somebody else. You can ask 6 different builders and they'll all come up with a totally different price because you haven't given them specifics of what you're looking for.
And actually, having a list of specifications as an HMO developer will help you also to work better with the builder, because the builder will have to give you the guarantee that based on the price he's giving you, is going to deliver exactly that list of specifications that you want. Otherwise, you just appoint the builder for something, and then after 3 months, 4 months, what you see is what you get. There is no way back. That's why the pre-construction phase is really important. So the suggestion would be to have the estate agent plans with a sketch of what you would like to do, plus an additional document which you can call Hmo Design Specifications for property number, blah, 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 and the list of the specifications divided by room, the kitchen, the living room, the bedrooms, so you can give a hint of how the project is going to look like, Otherwise, the builder doesn't know what to quote for, Or if they do give you a price, I wouldn't trust them at all. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
some builders, they just want to get the job and they give you a price, but you don't know what you're buying. So
Absolutely.
definitely not commit to it. Yeah, the best thing. Would be actually to have the planning and building control done, before appointing the building team. Yeah, officially. So they can commit to the exact specifications you want. Yeah, but if you want to get them to be committed before buying the property, the only way to do it is to do a general outline document with all the specifications, and to give them an idea. And then as a second phase, you can give them more detailed drawings. Yeah,
I think the issue really is, while it's good to have all those different specifications and the diagrams, the floor plans, etc., and all of that can be done, of course, before you exchange. There's always a risk that the completion doesn't happen. For whatever reason, on the day of the sale, the vendor could pull out. They for some reason it doesn't complete, and you may have spent some money on getting all of those pieces of documentation and the surveys and so on done. So that is a risk. The other risk, of course, is that while you might have all your paperwork and documentation in place, the builder then accepts another job in front of yours. And I think that for some of this, my feeling is, having done about over 40 HMO refurbs, some of it you cannot control. Some of it, I think you have to accept that however organized you are, however much you've got all your ducks in a row and you've got your people and you know which builders you're going to use, and you might be having an architect, and you might have all the correct documentation, things happen. Life happens, and you can't control it, can you?
Of course, no.
So I think it's about taking a good, again, it's having a business mindset that says, okay, what approach do we take to this? And with project management, I tend to take I tend to look at those three sort of factors, which is quality, time, and cost, and say to myself, okay, how much am I prepared to put in to solve this problem? So that's the cost element sorted. How long do I want for this problem to go on before it needs to be solved? And what quality am I looking for the problem to be solved? And I think those three elements are very valuable when you're looking at refurbs. And I'm sure, for you guys, using that kind of project management sort of theory must help you as well in terms of making some of those decisions throughout the ups and downs of a project, which can start pre-purchase, can't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So in terms of some of the things that you kind of been doing recently, what I'd really like to understand is what trends are you seeing in HMOs? And what do you think the next kind of couple of years looks like in terms of HMO development and design?
Okay. Maybe I can start, and maybe Ryan can add something on top. Yeah. So how is the HMO? Where is the HMO market going in terms of design? So with the pandemic, obviously, the pandemic shaped a lot. What the investors are looking for in HMO properties, because tenants changed what they're looking for in HMO rooms. Yeah. As you know, now end suites are a big thing. Yeah. So tenants will always ask the question, does the room have an end suite? Yeah. So end suites and larger bedrooms. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, 6.5 square meters rooms, they might work on a spreadsheet, but in reality, they are really difficult to let nowadays. Yeah. The best in terms of the room size, we always advise to have at least a room of 8.5 square meters to 9 square meters as a minimum. Yeah, because then you can fit, a large desk to work from home. Yeah, you can fit a wardrobe, and you have a nicer space to move around. Yeah. Then if you have an ensuite, is even better. Yeah, and if you have a larger bedrooms of like 10 to 11 square meters, you can even have a tea making facility with a sink, a fridge, and some cupboard space. Yeah, so these will be the perfect product for the current market in terms of room. And maybe you also offer the tenants USB sockets, data point to enhance the internet connection. Yeah, we always specify one Wi-Fi repeater per floor. If you're doing like the classic 3-story HMO with dormer extension, there should be a Wi-Fi repeater per floor. Otherwise, the Wi-Fi doesn't work. And as you know, nowadays, tenants need Wi-Fi more than they need water. Yeah, if the tenants don't have water, you'll probably they let you know. So if the tenants don't have water, they will let you know in probably 6 hours time. If they don't have Wi-Fi, they'll text you straight away. Yeah, so Wi-Fi is really important. And so,
although they won't probably be able to WhatsApp you because the Wi-Fi is down, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I had recently I had an issue with Wi-Fi. That's why I'm taking it really seriously. I was, this company just shut my Wi-Fi down from one day to the other in this 6-bed HMO, and there was everyone was complaining, a lot of stress. They were threatening to leave the property. It's like everyone is an addict to Wi-Fi. If you don't have it,
there is a way around that, Giovanni. Would you like to know my way around it?
Okay.
You have a Wi-Fi policy.
Okay.
So when the tenant moves in, you're very clear that you don't provide Wi-Fi like running water. And that if the Wi-Fi goes down, you will commit to try and fix it within a certain, few hours, but you cannot commit to always having Wi-Fi. Because I think if you're offering Wi-Fi, tenants do expect it to be on all the time. And of course, you as a landlord, you try and make sure it's on all the time. But there are also certain things, for example, that can affect the Wi-Fi, such as if somebody is downloading a huge amount of material or file sharing. So we have a Wi-Fi policy in our HMOs that tenants have to agree to as they move in. And that is very clear then about what we do and what we don't do and what they should do and shouldn't do legally, because if somebody is found to be file sharing illegally under your Wi-Fi, you are legally responsible for that. So that's maybe a little tip from me to you today to help you you manage the Wi-Fi better.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So when it comes to these kind of really good tips, I think they're excellent tips, and I think for investors they're going to be saying, "Yep, right, got to add that to my spec. Yeah, I've got to add that to my spec." That's all really powerful. What do you think are going to be some of the ways in which somebody's looking at you today thinking, "Well, I don't know if I should be using an architect. What's the kind of return I'm going to get? What's the value that you can add?" I'd like to understand a bit more. You've told us about the process that somebody might follow, and you've told us that you obviously offer a variety of different services that people can participate in, which is also incredibly useful, that they don't have to use you for the whole project. It could just be for the starter part, sort of phase one of the project. But I think, having an investor mindset, you should always be asking yourself, what's the return I'm going to get? So can you give us a bit of an idea of why do you think, and I know you're biased, but I'm asking you from your point of view as architects, what return could an investor expect by working with an architect versus not using an architect?
I think there's a few different ways to measure this. So one might be in pounds, but then also one might be in time and pain. So I mean, actually 25% of our clients that come to us have already worked with maybe a CAD technician or a draftsman, and they have failed to get the permissions, or they have messed up in the planning process. They've not explained it in enough detail. They've not put the design and access statement together properly, and they've caused problems, for their investor on their project. We have done so many of these, and we understand how to block the objections that the council might have in such a way that we'll have a much smoother process, which is less stressful for anyone. So that's a definite return on investment, and obviously getting the permissions, is where the value's added. Not also just about that, but optimizing the space and doing those calculations. So an example, we've got a project in London, and it's a 3-bed semi-attached 1930s property, and we were able to push this property to 8 bedrooms.
Wow.
and kitchenette facilities. So, you know, the client said, I want to maximize the space, and he was thinking probably six bedrooms, you know, with a few en suites, but we were able to do it in a way that, you know, was 8 bedrooms, double bedrooms, you know, all 10 square meters plus, en suites and kitchenette facilities, and no additional council tax banding as well. Yeah, it's because we navigated the planning process properly. And obviously in London, that's going to add huge value. So, I mean, he's renting the rooms out for £800 per room per month.
Amazing.
You know, I think for the extra additional work, you know, maybe £50,000 on the construction cost, but he got an extra 2 rooms out of that. Yeah, so, you know, if you work out the return on investment on an extra 50 grand spend, as well as the valuation. So the property, I think, purchase price was 600,000, 200,000 on the construction cost, and then the property is being valued at, you know, 950.
Yeah,
you know?
Brilliant.
So we'll try and push the development as much as possible, you know, because obviously, again, that's good for the client and that's good for us. You know?
Yes, that's excellent. I think it also helps for people who are doing those bigger developments, particularly where, for example, there is, of course, this is another thread that I'm working on at the moment, is council tax rebanding of individual rooms. And that is catching a lot of people out. And maybe another time we can have a further discussion about that, and perhaps bring you on to the other group that I run, which is the council tax and HMO group, to get an idea of, you know, projects that you might have seen where potentially those rooms were going to be rebanded, or there was a risk that they would be rebanded, but because of your involvement, you've been able to avoid that happening. But that is a topic for a whole other day, I'm afraid. But I think that's a really valuable contribution. That this is, of course, where the combination of design and architecture and building regs and building control, your knowledge about construction and you know, current legislation and guidance really comes in, and will help people to, you know, if they've got a house that could be a great HMO, you can maximize that. And I think that's what you're saying, is that you can maximize it. And also, let's just be clear with people that when we talk about single and double, what we mean is 1 person and 2 person. In the legislation, it says single and double, but actually you can still have a double bed in a 6.5 meter room, can't you? But it's just you can't rent it out to 2 people.
This is a big thing that maybe we come across when clients come to us from using another design professional, where they've sent the plans into the council with the double beds, and the council automatically think they're trying to have 2 people in the room, 2 occupants. So then they're saying, why are you going for a permitted development for a 3 to 6? This is actually a full planning, because now you want 12 people in the room. You know, so lack of attention, lack of detail can cause a lot of problems. And then you have to fight and convince the council, and it's very difficult to convince the council that you don't want, you know, more people in the property.
Yeah. Very good. Well, listen, guys, thank you ever so much indeed today. I want to say thank you for your input and your amazing tips, amazing advice for people, really, really helpful. So how should somebody who's kind of toying with the idea of working with you, how should they get in touch with you? And what's the process by which you would agree whether they're right for you and you're right for them?
So you can visit our website, which is www.hmo-architect.com. There's a form there where you can fill out the details about yourself, your goals, your property, upload various documents like floor plans and you know, pictures, and we can book a call, discovery call. It's free. We will look at the property. We'll give you some initial advice, walk you through the process if you need more guidance on how to work with an architect or the development process, and just try and be as helpful as possible. And then obviously, if you're confident in the project and you would like to move forward, whether that's full architectural support or the design appraisal, the feasibility viability study, we obviously you know, put a quotation together, schedule of works, and go from there.
Wonderful. That's great. And of course, you offer a variety of services available as well, don't you? So maybe if somebody's even started a project and beginning to feel they're kind of getting in too deep, it's not impossible for them to come to you and for you to help them rescue that project, or certainly turn it around in some way.
Definitely,
which I think again could be very helpful for a lot of people who might listen to this on a podcast, or they might be watching the Facebook as a live or a recording and thinking, yes, I'm already at that point, help. They can come to you now, which is really helpful. So I'll put your links and your information in the group, and on the podcast we'll put them in the podcast notes as well, so that if anyone does want to contact either Giovanni or Ryan, you're very welcome to do so. You can go on their website, have a look at the projects that they've done, check them out, make sure that they're the right people for you to be working with. But I certainly have had some tremendous feedback from some of the clients you've worked with, hence why it's been great having you on today. And good luck with your projects. We look forward to seeing some of those wonderful pictures as they come through. And feel free to post progress of things that you're working on, because it's always good to see what's happening in the HMO world.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much.